What's up, everyone? Sean Count Blackguard here today with an album review, this time of the 2017 Napalm Records release of Deep, Calleth Upon Deep by Satyricon. If you don't know who Satyricon are, there's a problem. They are Norwegian black metal legends that have been around since the early 90s, and their first three records are absolutely unbelievable. Some of the best albums in black metal history. And as their sound progressed, they changed their sound quite a bit throughout the years. And what caused them to get a lot of popularity and lose a lot of their old fans was they made the shift from being straightforward black metal to being black and roll with the album Volcano. From there on out, they progressed their sound more. They stayed with the black and roll sound up until the album self-titled, their last record, which was where they lost me. And honestly, I didn't have too high of hopes going into this, but thankfully I was quite surprised. My biggest gripe with the last album was the songwriting was very weird. The drumming was very weird. Everything seemed completely stripped down, but not in the way I wanted or liked. It was very bizarre considering it was all clean guitar on that album with absolutely no distortion, which made no sense. Finally, the album started to kind of click with me with the Live at the Opera album that they released, but I still can't listen to self-titled. But Deep Calleth Upon Deep, on the other hand, is very, very good for a multitude of reasons. The first thing that really struck me with this album is the vicious riffs are back. Now, a lot of people that are watching this that hate Satyricon will laugh when I say it, but I feel like Age of Nero had some of the most aggressive riffs in their discography. Sure, they weren't drenched in atmosphere or anything like that. They were just very straightforward guitar riffs, but they were still super aggressive, and I love that about that album, and I love that about Now Diabolical and Volcano. Are those albums are just so goddamn vicious, and I felt like they lost their teeth with self-titled, but the teeth are back, and they are bearing their teeth proudly on this album. Now, one of the other things about this that really surprised me beyond the riffs were the fact that they brought back a lot of the old school type of riffing with the open chord picking that creates that very eerie sound that I love in black metal so much that sends a chill right up your spine. Those riffs are back, and the drumming is fucking fantastic. I absolutely love the performance that Frost did on this. I wasn't crazy about what he did on self-titled, but on this he keeps a little bit of the almost awkward style that he had on self-titled, but it's back to being straightforward and just full of aggression. Tons of double kicks, very aggressive drumming, along with the great grooves and awesome tom grooves, and throwing in tom hits that are kind of out there, like on the third song on this album. Instead of like where you'd expect a snare hit within the riff, he goes for a tom, and it creates this really cool like sound that feels very, I guess you could almost say, driving, almost like a build up to war. And to me, that is just really fucking awesome. And plus, the drum sound on it is fucking fantastic. Very natural sounding drums. There's nothing clicky, nothing digital. It feels like you're listening to a real drum kit, which is refreshing for a band of their stature within black metal, because usually the bands that are the most popular in black metal tend to go for the most triggered fucking sound. And thankfully, that's not the case with this album. Now, the other great thing about this release is the catchiness of it. When I first heard the song Deep, Calleth Upon Deep, when they released that track first, I was on the fence about it. It had a lot of elements of self-titled that I didn't like about it, especially in the drum department, but as the song progressed and into the chorus, I started to get hooked. And that's the thing with this album is the more you listen to it, the more you catch onto the catchiness of it, and the more it just hooks you in. And it's honestly a fun release. As weird as that sounds when I'm talking about black metal, this is a fun fucking record. It's just full of moments where you sit there and you kind of like nod your head along and you start to catch the vocals and the lyrics and you start singing along to it. And I feel like these guys really captured the essence of what Satyricon is all about in the later era, which is creating just absolutely heavy, catchy, evil sounding black metal. And evil is definitely a trait with the music on this album because, as I mentioned before, with the open note riffs, it's just full of these evil sections that just sound so goddamn creepy, especially with the slowed down tempo that a lot of the songs go to, which is another hallmark of later era Satyricon that I really like is the tempo changes going from pretty fast riffs to these very slow, almost doom-laden passages from the drums at least, with the more black metal type guitar. Anything that slows down in black metal, mid to slow pace, I am all about. And there's plenty of moments like that, which are a perfect contrast with the absolute blistering moments on this record. There are songs on this record, like Black Wings and Withering Gloom, that feel like it could have been a perfect stepping stone between the Rebel Extravaganza album and Volcano. To me, this album kind of straddles the border between those two records. And as much as I'm not a big fan of Rebel Extravaganza, it's the closest we've ever gotten to the classic Satyricon sound in years, in well over a decade. And that is something that's pretty fucking impressive of a band their age going this long, where they're doing throwbacks to the old sound slightly while still keeping it fresh. And I find it so cool how they're able to blend the two sounds of the straightforward black metal blistering sound with the modern black and roll sort of progression that they laid forth with albums like Volcano, Now Diabolical, and Age of Nero. It feels to me like this is truly a natural progression. Is this a Nemesis Divinia Part 2? Hell no. But this is not a Part 2 to any sort of record. It's a perfect sort of continuation for them and a logical step in almost coming full circle with their sound. And in a way, this album gives me hope for the next album, which I'm sure that's not even a factor on their mind right now. But with the next album, I feel like they have the potential to go even further as a throwback to the classic black metal sound while still maintaining the integrity and not doing it out of the sheer fact of a lot of people don't like the new material and they're trying to win over people. This feels like a very natural progression for them to almost take a step back and kind of be like straddling that line right in between the straightforward black metal and the black and roll. And I absolutely love that. Now, if I had a few gripes about this album, it would be very minimal, which are the fact that the songs kind of blend together after a while because it does feel like there is some sort of formula to what's going on, but it doesn't really detract. It just means there are some songs that just don't really stand out amongst others. Some of the standout tracks for me are definitely Black Wings and Withering Gloom, the title track, the first track, the second. Like the first four tracks on this album will just kick your fucking teeth in, and I love that. Maybe the song, the title track, won't kick your teeth in as hard, but you will definitely find it catchy. So make of that what you will. And the other gripe I have, and it's something that Satyricon has always kind of had, which I can't really harp on them for, is Satyr has a very monotone voice. There isn't much else beyond his normal rasp and his like speaking voice, like the spoken word parts that he's always kind of thrown in. which have always sounded fucking fantastic. But his screams, or I should say his growls at this point, sound kind of weak. It feels more like he's talking with a voice like this. It's something that it doesn't sound bad, but at the same time, I wish he still had the ability. And maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he's choosing not to do it for whatever reason. But I feel like the vocals are held back. I feel like he should be like pushing harder and just screaming his lungs out. But then again, he's getting old. And honestly, I don't blame him for not wanting to do that. Doing that shit, it hurts sometimes, not your throat, but your body doing that. And I can only imagine doing this for as long as he has. It's gotta be a fucking chore. So I'm not saying like, oh, he's a pussy, he can't scream anymore. I'm saying I wish there were more screams that were just more of like the old style where you could basically feel his fucking veins popping out of his neck and face as he's belting out the opening line to Hivik Chris Dode off the Shadow Throne. Those days are long gone. But I do kind of like this croning thing that he's been implementing over the last like maybe 10 years. And I would say at this point it's became more of him speaking, which from a vocalist perspective I'm not a big fan of, but I can definitely respect it. So it's not like a deal breaker with this album. With all of that said, this is a very good album and a lot better than what I was expecting after the disaster that was self-titled. For me, if I was to give this a score, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's highly enjoyable, but it does grow a little long in the tooth and it does seem to kind of blend together, and the vocals just aren't what I was hoping for. But other than that, this is a very catchy, solid, gritty, punch you in the face sort of album. And if that's the sort of thing you want from Satyricon, this is it, and you get it in fucking spades. I love it. I love all the instrumentation, all of the weird instruments that happen throughout the album, all the weirdness within it. I enjoy. I enjoy the riffing. I enjoy the slow parts, the vocals, the lyrics are fantastic. But as I said, I just wish the vocals overall had more screaming and more power behind them. And the songwriting is kind of to a formula, but it doesn't detract enough from it to keep this album from being enjoyable. So 7.5 out of 10. You can pick this up on CD, vinyl. There's a box set. I'm going to be picking it up soon. I've been streaming it off Google Play. I need this in my life and I need this on my shelf. Fantastic album. If you are interested in it, I'll have a link down below to where you can check out a track or two, and also I will provide a link to where you can purchase this. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If not, too fucking bad. Patreon link is down below if you want to become a patron, and also pre-order for my shirts. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I'll see you in the next video, and support Satyricon.